Hi, everybody. So we are going to talk about theories and theorists. What I want you to know with this or with today's lecture is that this is something we're going to come back to a lot throughout our time together. We're going to discuss these things quite a bit. And I suspect you'll want to watch this lecture a few times to get a grasp of it. It's okay if you watch it today and you don't understand what we're talking about, or you just kind of walk away with a real baseline idea. That's fine. This is something that we're going to discuss a lot. So what is a theory? What makes a theory sociological? So social theories don't try to explain what is happening, but rather why it's happening. So we're not interested in illustrating the what, we're interested in explaining the why. Now, research and theory cannot be separate. You have to have them together. Research and theory are the foundation of sociology. So in order for a study to exist or for a study to move forward, it has to be guided by a theory. Now, I'm going to take you through four main theories. And whenever you see me or read me say, include a theory in your answer, include a theory in your example, whenever you see me say include theory, I'm talking about using one of these four main theories, okay? So pull from one of them. The first one is structural functionalist theory. So structural functionalist theory sees society as a complex group, but it also says that everything in a society is necessary for a society to function. So you have to take the good with the bad. You have to have people do bad things so that you understand what we shouldn't be doing. You have to see people do great things in order to understand what we should achieve or what we should strive for. This was founded by Auguste Comte. So if you've already watched the What is Sociology lecture, you'll know he is a founding father for sociology. And one really common example of it is this idea of the human body. So when I stand up, I'm not just standing up using my legs. I'm using all sorts of muscle groups in order to stand, right? And that's the idea with functionalist theory. You can't just have one thing by itself. You need lots of things working together in order for a society to function. Another way of thinking about this is yoga. If you've ever done yoga, you'll know that you have to have all of the moves kind of working as one in order for you to carry on, right? If you don't do it right, then you fall and hit your head on the coffee table or something like that. But the idea with functionalism is that everything in a society is necessary and it's complex, and we need to keep everything moving in order for society to function. There's two parts of functionalist theory that work kind of hand in hand with it. And these are manifest and latent functions. Hang on, I got to move my face. There we go. So functionalist theory has two parts. Manifest functions, which are intended consequences. So if everything needs to be working together in order for a society to function, if everything is necessary, manifest functions are the intended consequences of all of those things working together. So for example, say that I steal something. The intended consequence of that will be whatever the law says is going to happen to you if you get caught stealing something. Or say, for example, I am in a public space and I hit somebody. I just haul off and clock them. I've never done that before, so maybe some of you are better informed about this than me. But say I do it. I know that there are consequences for that, right? Whatever they're going to be, whether somebody from security sees me or whatever, there's going to be stuff that will happen to me for doing that. Maybe the person retaliates and punches me, right? But I know there's intended consequences of my actions. Latent functions are when you have the unintended consequence. So the stuff that you don't see coming, the stuff that you're not familiar with, the surprises, if you will. So latent functions or unintended consequences. So if we keep with my example, I punch somebody in public, the unintended consequence of that may be that like people go, hey, that guy deserved to be hit. Good job. Probably wouldn't see that coming. That's a latent function. Please don't say that, go home and be like, my professor's advocating violence. I'm not. It's just an example. All right, second theory, conflict theory. So conflict theory comes from Karl Marx and it focuses on power. Basically, conflict theory says that the groups that have power are going to use that power to exploit groups that do not have that power. So those who are powerful are exploiting those who are not. This should probably not come as a surprise to most of you. In fact, I think this theory may resonate with most of you in probably the most obvious way. But it's power structures. We're talking about power structures. It's also how groups keep their dominance, right? Because if you are off being a dominant group, keeping people in control, showing your power, right, then people are going to be more fearful to touch you or to try and break apart whatever power structure you have. One way of thinking about this is the pay gap. So women in general make 77 cents for every dollar a man makes. And I think that number goes down for women of color. So like I think for African-American women, it's like 64 or 66 cents for every dollar a man makes. So conflict theory would look at that and say, okay, who benefits? Who benefits from one group making more money than another? And that's the power structure. And that's what conflict theory would try and explore or explain. Third, we have symbolic interaction. So symbolic interaction basically means that we assign meaning to things based on the meaning it has for us. Symbolic interaction is essentially taking something that has a lot of meaning to you and running with it. So here's an example. Say you have a song. Most of us can think of that song that was playing when we first really, really liked someone, right? What song was playing when we danced with them and they were like, do you want to dance with me? And you were like, of course I do, because I'm just secretly in love with you, right? Most of us can tell you what song was playing during that really key moment in your life. You've assigned that meaning to that song. You probably have kind of like, oh, nice warm moment that you think of, or maybe he or she was really terrible to you and you're like, I can never hear this song again. You're still assigning meaning to it, right? It's still something that has meaning to you. You've assigned meaning to it and you're going to act based off of that meaning. Okay, here's a couple examples. Oh, sorry. This was based in the work of George Herbert Mead. All right, so here's a couple examples. The first, what is this? Hopefully you all just said out loud or in your head, Mickey Mouse, right? So what does Mickey Mouse symbolize? That's right, Disney, capitalism, enchantment, fairy tales, princesses, theme parks, maybe for some of you, employment. For some of you, maybe it's the Run Disney stuff. I like the Run Disney activities. I like doing the races, right? All this is three circles that are stacked on top of each other. That's all we're looking at, are three circles that have been placed on top of each other. But those three circles are some of the most recognizable symbols, I would say, around the world. I've been in a lot of places around the world. I've seen a lot of people in random countries wearing Disney stuff, right? Very recognizable. We've assigned all of that meaning to just three circles stacked on top of each other. Here's another example. The Red Cross, right? Emergency, health, help, all of that. If we take this and we just play with it a little bit, we change the color and the shape and the size, we have a completely different meaning, right? Now we're looking at the Christian cross, right? Which comes with all of the Christianity stuff attached to it. Same idea, two sticks stacked on top of each other. You change the color and the size, you have a completely different meaning. And this is symbolic interaction. Okay, so another easy kind of way of thinking about symbolic interaction is when President Obama left office, one of the things he had in motion was to change the $20 bill and to change whose face was going to be on it. So the $20 bill currently has Andrew Jackson's face on it. President Obama wanted to change it to Harriet Tubman. Hang on, Harriet. I'm sorry, I'm covering your pretty face there. So he wanted to change it to Harriet Tubman. This is symbolic interaction, right? The meaning of the $20 bill, the monetary meaning won't change, but the way we feel about it might. This isn't going to happen, by the way, in case you're wondering. The current administration decided they didn't want to change the $20 bill, but this was the steps that were put into place prior to that. All right, last, we have feminist theory. So feminist theory says that women's lives and experiences need to be brought to the forefront because they've been ignored, and they need to be brought to the forefront of sociological thinking and research. Now, historically, and this goes for all types of science, historically, if you were studying a person, most of the time we would assume that if you were a white male, that your experience was the same across the board. So a white male could stand in for a woman of color, a man of color, an LGBT person. The idea was the same, that white men could just sort of stand in for anybody in research. Now, hopefully you're thinking that that sounds completely bonkers, because it is. Of course, we now know and understand that white men's experiences are completely different than the experiences of women of color or just women in general, or anybody who is not a white man. So feminist theory is acknowledging that and saying, hey, we need to make up for years and years of just studying white men as the litmus test for everybody and bring women's experiences to the forefront. Also, if you've already seen the Research Methods lecture, you'll know I love Beyonce. Here is our second Beyonce reference. Okay, so that is theory. Good luck. Please watch this as many times as you need to in order to understand it, and email me if you have any questions. Bye.